These 5 men were deputy marshals of the United States, who worked under the orders of federal judge Isaac Parker in Fort Smith, Arkansas. They were responsible for capturing and judging criminals in the region known as the Indian Territory. To protect themselves from dangers, they carried Winchester 1873 rifles, a very popular repeating firearm at the time. In this photo, we see freighters transporting supplies and equipment to the town of Goldfield, Nevada, in the year 1905. Goldfield was the site of the largest gold rush in the United States since the Alaska Gold Rush. At the height of the boom, between 1905 and 1910, Goldfield was the second largest city in Nevada, with over 25,000 residents. The city was the scene of intense disputes between miners and businessmen, resulting in strikes, violence, and federal intervention. Reuben and Wesley Busenitz were 2 brothers who worked at Denny Livestock, a cattle ranching company located in the town of Lame Deer, Montana, in the United States. Lame Deer is the headquarters of the Northern Cheyenne Indian Reservation, a Native American people that maintains its traditions and culture. John Chisholm was a wealthy and influential cattle rancher in the American West in the 19th century. He was born in Tennessee, but moved with his family to Texas, where he worked as a builder and clerk. In 1854, he began to focus on the cattle business, taking his herds to New Mexico, where he became the owner of a large ranch in the Pecos River Valley, with over 100,000 head of cattle. In the early 20th century in California, cowboys performed an important activity to identify their cattle: branding. They would gather the cattle and use hot irons to brand the initials or symbols of the owners on the animal's hindquarters. This practice was a way to prevent theft and land disputes, as well as facilitate herd management. Tim McCoy was a famous actor and technical consultant for Western films and TV shows. He served as a colonel in the U.S. Army and as a general officer in the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War I and World War II. He traveled with Native American extras for The Covered Wagon and other films, and starred in dozens of westerns as a colonel, sheriff, or farmer. In the early 20th century, in the state of Nevada, United States, 3 Basque origin cowboys stood out for their skill and courage in cattle work. They were known as the Wild Bunch, a nickname inspired by the famous outlaw gang led by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The 3 were relatives. In 1941, renowned photographer Ansel Adams visited Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that preserves the ruins of ancient Puebloan peoples. There, he captured in black and white one of the largest and most impressive cliff dwellings in the park, Cliff Palace. This stone, mortar, and wood construction, built in a natural cavity in the canyon wall, has about 150 rooms and 23 kivas, rooms for religious rituals. In this historic photograph, taken around 1890, we see men working as freight haulers in the Sierra Nevada region of California. They used mules, hybrid animals between horses and donkeys, to carry their belongings and supplies through the mountains. A faithful dog accompanies them. Savage Silver Mining Works was one of the leading silver mining companies in Virginia City, Nevada, United States. It was founded in 1860 after the discovery of the Comstock Lode, the country's largest silver deposit. The company had a large ore extraction and processing facility that employed hundreds of workers. This is a photograph of Red Hawk, a warrior and leader of the Oglala Lakota tribe, taken in 1905 by Edward Curtis, a famous American photographer and ethnologist. Red Hawk was born in 1854 and participated in several battles against soldiers and Lakota enemies, including the famous Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876, alongside Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. He also witnessed the difficulties and changes his people faced in resisting and surrendering to the whites. William Levi Buck Taylor was born in 1857 in Fredericksburg, Texas, and became an orphan as a child. He learned to ride and rope from a young age and became an experienced cowboy. He traveled hundreds of miles on horseback, working and herding cattle in his native region and the southern plains of the United States. In 1880, he was hired by Buffalo Bill Cody, a famous buffalo hunter and showman, to work on his farm in North Platte. Spoilers of the West was a silent Western film released in 1927 by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, directed by W.S. Van Dyke and starring Tim McCoy, an actor and military officer who had a great familiarity with the culture and language of Native Americans. In this film, McCoy played Lieutenant Lang, a soldier tasked with removing fur hunters from an Indian reservation, but who falls in love with the daughter of one of them. Shoshone Eddie Drink was born in 1893 and was one of the indigenous cowboys who worked on the Shoshone-Bannock Fort Hall Reservation, an area of land reserved for the Shoshone and Bannock tribes in southeastern Idaho. He wore typical cowboy attire of the time, including a fabric shirt, vest, pants, leather cuffs, scarf, hat, and boots. He also adorned himself with items that reflected his identity and indigenous culture. This is an old photograph depicting a camp scene in Yosemite National Park, California, around 1863. The image was taken by Carlton Watkins, one of the earliest photographers to explore and document the natural landscapes of the American West. He used a large format camera and glass plates to capture the details and depth of Yosemite's mountains, valleys, and waterfalls. Mary Ann and Catherine were the two daughters of Tom Kelly, a small farmer who lived and worked on Cocklebur, a rural property in Minden, a town in the state of Nebraska, United States. In the photo, they are around 15 and 13 years old, respectively, and learned from a young age how to care for the family's animals and land. Tim McCoy was a famous actor and technical consultant for Western films and TV programs. He served as a colonel in the U.S. Army and as a general officer in the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War I and World War II. He also served as Wyoming's adjutant general between the wars with the rank of brigadier general. This is a photograph taken in 1912 by Irwin E. Smith, one of the earliest photographers to portray the life and work of cowboys in the American West. The image shows a cowboy from the Shoe Bar Ranch, a cattle farm located in Hall County, Texas, which had several owners throughout its history. The cowboy is mounted on a white horse, looking at a bend in the river. Texas. Jack Omohundro was an actor, hunter, and frontier scout who became famous for his Wild West shows with Buffalo Bill Cody and Wild Bill Hickok. He was born in Virginia in 1846 and served in the Confederate Army during the American Civil War. After the war, he moved to Texas, where he worked as a cowboy and participated in cattle drives. On December 16, 1872, the Chicago audience witnessed the premiere of a Western drama written by Ned Buntline, an American novelist, journalist, and editor famous for his stories about the Old West. The show was called Scouts of the Prairie and read Deviltry as It Is, and featured the participation of 3 real-life characters who had lived adventures on the frontier. This is an old photograph showing a miner and his donkey, the miner named Steady Jack, around 1900. The image was taken by an unknown photographer, possibly in the state of Nevada, where there were many silver and gold mines. The miner wears simple and dirty clothing, including a shirt, pants, boots, and a hat. He carries a shovel and a pickaxe, tools used for digging the soil and extracting ores. This is an old photograph showing a group of animals that were used to transport supplies for basket weaving, a traditional art of many Native American peoples. They used donkeys, which are hybrid animals between horses and donkeys, to carry materials such as wicker, reeds, straw, and leather. They traveled through an arid and mountainous region, possibly in the state of Nevada. In 1958, a Western film called Born Reckless was released, starring actress Mamie Van Doren. The film featured rodeo scenes that required knowledge and skill from the actors and stunt performers. To ensure the authenticity and safety of these scenes, the film's producers hired a rodeo technical consultant. This consultant was Ben Johnson, a cowboy who was born and raised in the state of Oklahoma, United States. In the early 20th century, there was an establishment called the Arizona Saloon in the town of Tombstone, Arizona, United States. It was a place where people could drink, gamble, dance, and have fun. The Arizona Saloon was frequented by cowboys, miners, gunslingers, and outlaws, who sometimes got involved in fights and shootouts. The Arizona Saloon was considered one of the busiest and most dangerous places in the region. In 1912, a group of people visited Crater Lake National Park, located in the state of Oregon, United States. The park is famous for hosting a lake of blue and crystal clear water, formed by the eruption of a volcano thousands of years ago. The lake is the deepest in the United States and has an island called Wizard Island in the center. The group of visitors decided to take a boat tour on the lake to appreciate the natural beauty of the place. In 1900, a Hopi woman from one of the indigenous villages in Arizona, United States, demonstrated her skill in basket weaving. She used plant fibers and natural dyes to create a basket with geometric and symbolic designs. Her art was an ancestral tradition of the Hopi, who valued baskets as sacred and utilitarian objects.